But I've been enthroned in every major monastery in Tibet, and then nobody really knows that, you know. So that's a process for humanity to go through. But for me, this process of going to Tibet and being enthroned in every monastery, and the Dalai Lama, as you know, was in charge of Tibet. But they grabbed this little kid out of America and asked him to come back to Tibet. And I did when I was 30 and when I was ready. And I went back, and when I went in, they said, "Oh, you're the Dalai Lama. Oh, you're all the incarnations of all the major founders of all the lineages." And I go, "Yep, that's right. So who's this Dalai Lama you're worshiping?" Yeah. And no one could answer. So I answered it for them. I told them, "Your Dalai Lama is the reincarnation of Genghis Khan. You know, that really evil bastard that killed hundreds of millions of people and ravaged the earth and took over Europe, China, Mongolia, everywhere. Yeah? That's the guy you know as the Dalai Lama. But you don't know this, but I know this. Because I know this, he's no longer entitled to the position as Dalai Lama. So before he leaves, he will say, I am going to reincarnate never again as the Dalai Lama," which he did. He's made that statement very clear. But he first had to go crazy. And he did. And he started making everything about me illegal. All my past incarnations. And he made my major incarnation as Dorji Chungden really bad. Yeah. And so that went up for about 11 to 12 years, ruined the lives of all the people of Tibet, made all the people of Tibet go through a revolution and fight each other, brothers and sisters, caused them to kill each other, caused them to burn themselves in effigy over the Dalai Lama, saying that practicing a belief in Dorji Chungden is practicing a belief in the devil. And he says it would do only harm to you and harm to me. And then, after I confronted him, which he would never meet me, he would never allow me any relationship to him, but I built a stupa on his backyard, which he couldn't control because I'm the guy who's in charge. And all the people of Tibet came to me and asked me to do this, to protect them. So I did it. And I built this stupa as a way to heal the Dalai Lama, to change his relationship of authority over Tibet, and help people remember that who I am, acknowledging that process. So I built this stupa right here. And it took a long time. It wasn't a joke. It was really a long time. It was a magnificent stupa. Yeah, it took us about a year and a half to build this thing. And in it, it has all the names of all the people who died because of the Dalai Lama. When the Dalai Lama started the revolution in China, he started that. And when the Dalai Lama created a revolution against China, they fought against him and kicked him out. He left, leaving millions of people in a disastrous situation. Yeah? That's something the Dalai Lama just doesn't do. If you're a Buddha, you allow yourself to be killed, to be sacrificed, rather than the people around you to be sacrificed for you. Yeah? You don't do that. Yeah? But he did. Yeah? He left in the night, not letting anybody know. And when he was gone, Chinese came in and started killing people and destroyed all of Tibet. That was the effect of the Dalai Lama. So that took a long time to heal. So I built this stupa. Yeah. And what you see, that little black pole right in the center, is called the Tree of Life. Yeah. And we created that Tree of Life in relationship to all the people who died in that process in Tibet due to the Dalai Lama. A lot of people. And they were still dying during the time of me building stupa and all of that. And the Dalai Lama is still going crazy, still acting crazy, still telling people that the devil's out after them and that the Buddha is the devil. He's telling people that the Buddha is the devil. Yeah? And this is really freaking all the Tibetans out. But yet none of you Westerners know what the shit's going on. They don't know the Dalai Lama did this. They don't know what's going on. They have no idea, but I do, and I'm the one causing it. Yeah, because I'm Dorje Chungden. I'm the Buddha. Yeah, and I come back and I establish it, and I walk into his backyard, and I build this thing. A really beautiful stupa, really beautiful, and inside of it, it has every single name of every single person who was harmed, injured, or died during that process. Every single millions of people's names were written on scrolls and all placed inside this stupa. And then a pyramid, a small one, just like this one, was placed inside that stupa with a picture of me so I can bless all the people of Tibet for what they're going through from the guy called the Dalai Lama. Yeah? And yet everybody's giving the Dalai Lama a Nobel Peace Prize and shaking his hand as a saint and some kind of shit like that. But in reality, he's killing millions and millions and millions of people and taking no credit for it. None whatsoever, as though he's a pacifist. And he's really not. So simultaneously, while I'm building that, I'm building this, another stupa, Shambhala. Yeah? And this is the pyramid that we're in right now. Yeah? And this pyramid was built in the most sacred land of Native Americans. Yeah? And that this relationship here in this location of these people were the most peaceful Native Americans in existence. They were here for 40,000 years. Yeah? 40,000 years, people. 40,000 years in Lake County. Yeah? They've been living here. They make the best baskets on earth. Yeah, yeah. So tight, so good, so clear in their ability to make whatever they make. Yeah, because their ancestry goes back 40,000 years as a peaceful nation. Never been to war. Never, ever been to war. Yeah, this is this land. This is the land that we're sitting on. And the lake that's here, there's only one other lake in the whole world that's older, and they're not sure which is the oldest. And that's in Siberia. Yeah. Yeah. So this could be the oldest lake in the world, on the oldest land in the world, of the oldest Native Americans in the world. And I built this right on top of it. Yeah. That's holy. That brings up a lot into humanity. So everything that I'm building here is to create the same healing that I did for Tibet. Yeah. And by the time I was done with Tibet, I was enthroned in all the processes for Tibet and building the stupa and going to the University of Drepung. I started passing out the etheric weavers and vajras and things like that. And they became highly receptive. They were overwhelmed by the amount of energy that's behind the tools. And now we're actually reestablishing where the temples will be built, monasteries will be built in the form of pyramids, under me. And that's going to be the next thing. That's in the birthplace in Lumbini. There's going to be a large pyramid there. And that's the American pyramid of the American Buddha Maitreya. Can you imagine America having a Buddha that has a Buddha monastery at the birthplace of Lumbini, at the Gautama Buddha's birthplace? That's really something for America. We don't have any understanding that that is what's going on. And that's a major blessing that comes in. And that major blessing healed Tibet and the Tibetan people. Millions of Tibetan people are much better off now than they were just 15 years ago. Yeah, they wanted to commit suicide 15 years ago. Now they don't want to commit suicide because the Dalai Lama has turned around completely saying, hey, sorry, Dorje Chungden's not the devil. I made a mistake. He couldn't explain it. He had to say, I made a mistake. I don't know. I maybe was upset. I think it's because I was upset. And then he says, well, I think it was because back during the time of the 5th Dalai Lama, I killed him. And I have bad karma because of that. And I never worked it out. And now I feel that he is not evil because he made Dorji Chungden seem evil at the time he killed him as an excuse for the reason why he killed him. As an excuse to kill this guy. So ever since then, he's been living out that excuse as though it was real. And it wasn't real. He had no right to kill Buddha. He killed Jesus Christ. That's not right. It has a major karmic effect on Tibetans. It has a major karmic effect on the world. And he is just like flies in a flypaper. Yeah? There are hundreds of Rinpoches that were like Trumpians that followed the Dalai Lama, just like these people that follow the Trump and his weird QAnon thing. Well, it was the same thing with the Dalai Lama. He had the QAnon thing. He had it going. He used channelers to come in to take the body of an evil spirit and communicate to him like QAnon. Yeah, like QAnon, telling him lies and all kinds of shit. Not real stuff. Yeah, and then I came along. Yeah, here I am, the real, actual, physical incarnation of Dorji Chungden, Tsongkhapa, and the Buddha. And all these disciples of mine started making a big deal about it, making it known to him. They brought me into the big university of Drepung. They made me the head of the university. They acknowledged me as the reincarnation of Tsongkhapa. And this all got back. It took 15 years, but it got back to the Dalai Lama and healed the Dalai Lama. Healed him from killing Buddha. That was cool. That's really good. So that's what I did in a whole country like that, of all of Tibet. And I just finished that about 2 years ago. So now I'm going back where all the major 400 of the high Rinpoches that no longer follow this Trump Dalai Lama figure now are in relationship to me and want to do good for humanity. Rinpoches never gave money, never gave to society, never gave to the poor, never did anything like I do all of that. That's all I do. Yeah. But none of these people do that at all whatsoever. So I'm like a major novelty in Buddhism. I actually feed the poor. I actually take care of people. I actually build houses. I actually build clinics, and they're all free. Not a Rinpoche or anybody in anything has done anything like that. So it's really changed the course of all of Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah. So now I'm enthroned, and you see this picture here. You can't really see me, but you see a picture of the Dalai Lama sitting there, yeah? So I'm enthroned in position of the Dalai Lama. I'm right there. You can't see my face, but that's where I'm at. And I'm receiving all these big accolades and all this kind of shit. And this is in a place at headquarters of Bodhisattva or Swayambhu. And it's in the same place as this right here. That's the same picture. Ought to be the same place. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, this is the same day, same picture. There you see the Dalai Lama over there on the left. And then before I had all the Rinpoches in front of me giving me the honor of the whole monastery and all of Tibetan Buddhism. So you see behind me is Maitreya. So this is the seat of Maitreya, yeah? And it's the teacher to this guy sitting over here who's the Dalai Lama. But because he's the head, they have to put him in a high seat. Where me, they have to try and figure out what to do with me, yeah? They're not real sure. But I keep showing up, and they know I'm Buddha Maitreya, so they put me in front of the Maitreya statue and let me do my teaching, all that. So this is deeply affected the Dalai Lama, the fact that I get enthroned in all these places. And what I do is that, like in this place, an old man used to be in charge of this place called Lumbum Tuku. And that's the name of my father. As the incarnation of Tsongkhapa, my father's name was Lumbum. So it just so happens this guy was Lumbum Tuku, his name being Lumbum. He was an old man. He was very proud of being a Khenpo. It was rare to become a Khenpo when you're a Rinpoche because you rarely have the money to go to school, in those days. So he was an accredited Khenpo Rinpoche, very rare. Not many Rinpoches go through school to become a Khenpo. So he did that, and he was very proud of it. He took me to his room. He said, see how poor I am. See what little room I have. See, I don't have a home. See, this is how I live. See, these are my books. I went to school. This is my certificate. That's it. That's all he had. That was his entire life was there. And he had built that monastery, Maitreya Vihar, for the coming of Buddha Maitreya. So a year later, he dies. And the very first day we meet each other, we come across each other on the steps of this monastery, and he stops and prays and states out that I'm the reincarnation of Milarepa, an incarnation of Buddha, and that I'm going to be his teacher, and that I'm the founder for Tibetan Buddhism, and I'm going to save all of Tibetan Buddhism. So he tells this to his uncle, and then he dies. So 3 years later, he has reincarnated, and he's 2 years old. And they found him, gathered him, take him back to the monastery. Now he gets 4 years old, and I'm asked to come to the monastery to meet the reincarnation of this old man. And he immediately begins doing a mantra of Manjushri, which is one of my incarnations. And he does the entire mantra at 4 years old, having never learned it, which blows everybody away because he's doing this in front of me, receiving it from me, and it's in transmission. So that's how it works. When you're a high initiate, you receive light and teaching from me that activates inside the person, and they can remember shit that you're not supposed to remember. Skills and abilities, even languages, can come back to you just by having a direct contact with your teacher. It's called transmission. So that happened to him, and he's now in the same position. He's now Lumbum Tuku in charge of this and all of that. But his relationship, all the Tuku's relationship, is that they're previous life students of mine. So there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. So Lumbum Tuku goes back to Tsongkhapa, and Tsongkhapa is the previous incarnation relationship of Gautama Buddha. So all of these things are like seemingly separate, but they're not. They're all connected due to reincarnation, and it's hard to connect them together, And the blessings come flowing through, But it's this story, this little bit of a story, the fact that we've had a Trump in Tibet that's very much like the Trump we have here, who tried to do what Trump tried to do here and pulled it off in Tibet. And I was able to go into Tibet and alter that ongoing process and stop it in mid-flow, in the middle of it. He was writing a book on Dorji Chungden. He was outlawing him forever in history. And all of a sudden, I knocked on his living room door, and he freaked out. He ran out the back of the door, ran out the building, jumped on a plane, and left. It really happened. He invited me to his house. And I go to his house, knock on the door, enter the living room, and he runs out the back door. His secretary doesn't even know where he went. And he went to the airport and flew away, and left me in his house. And I didn't get to find out for 2 hours later that he left, and there's no way I'm going to ever talk to him because he's gone. He's not here. But he had gone through this process, of getting, away from me, and he wrote all these books and terrible things that he didn't think I was here. He didn't think anything like that was even possible, but he was going to do this process, and he did it. So that process is the same process that we have with Trump, and Trumpism and the cult, and the process of a cult. And you have no idea what influences are involved in a cult, how dangerous they are. If you went back in Tibet and studied any of that, you'd find out that thousands of people died. People killed people over this. Yeah? People killed family members. People killed, if you were on the other side and you didn't believe in the Dalai Lama and you believed in something else, you were killed. Yeah? So that was in a place of peace. In Tibetan Buddhism, you think that's a place of peace. But in reality, it was a real reality of what was going on. And it happens in the purging process when light hits dark and the flies get caught on the paper, And there were all these, like Taisata Rinpoche and all these different Rinpoches that needed to come to the aid of Buddha. And they were going to be destroyed by this Dalai Lama. All of them were going to be wiped away by this Dalai Lama. And their future lives were going to be never present again. They weren't going to be coming back in any understanding of their consciousness as a Rinpoche for hundreds of years, because they would have to go through this process of never being able to pray to Buddha again. It would be eliminated during their lifetime. And that was going to happen in this life. But instead, I walked in their living rooms, in their houses, in their mom and dad's house, all the Rinpoches, hundreds of them, found them as children. I was led to them. I'd collect them, bring them to me, enthrone them, call them who they are and say this is who they are and they're under me from here on out. Hundreds of them. So now we have all the tops of these masters no longer under a false prophet. And they've been reached by Buddha. And that was easier for me in Buddhism than it is in this field, because this is a field of the Antichrist. And in Buddhism, we don't have a lot of Antichrist. We don't have people who believe in God. So it's a really strange place. It's a weird place, Buddhism. Very weird place. A lot of dogma, a lot of weird stuff. And magic and evil takes place in Buddhism. You have no idea that shit goes on, So it was a really difficult thing to try and clear up and heal, But we did it. We did it. We're way beyond it now. So the next phase is the connection between the Native American and the Tibetan. Ancient-wise, these people are the same people. Ancient-wise, they crossed over the Iceland Straits of Alaska and China and came over there, Tibetans, came over from there into America. And the Americans would go over there into Asia. And it meant like that for thousands and tens of thousands of years before the end of the Ice Age. And as the end of the Ice Age happened and that melted out, there was no longer a land for them to cross over. So that ended. And now the people we see in America are American Indians. But their origin came from the East. Does that make sense? So there's a relationship, a rainbow bridge between Native Americans and Tibetans, a rainbow bridge, a brotherhood and sisterhood, and it's a telepathic rapport between Godhead, the planetary logos, and humanity. Both these people are aboriginal from the same race of the planetary logos. So when both of them come back together again, this is in both prophecies. Our prophecy of the Native American believes in the coming of the Eastern Indians coming in from Rainbow Bridge, and then the Tibetans believe in the process of the Padmasambhava and the Buddha returning, going to America and coming into the land of the red man and manifesting in relationship to the Native Americans. So both of them have this far-off prophecy that is in process right this minute taking place. So that's pretty cool, and it's good for you to know this, because working out this, you would think, how's he going to do that? How's he going to heal all of America? This place is crazy. I mean, how are you going to do that? But I've already done half of it. The hardest part was Tibet. There's no communication there. It's already a cult, and they believe in the devil wholeheartedly. And imagine ousting that guy after 14 incarnations. And I've had 5 incarnations as the Dalai Lama and killed every time before I turned 24 years old. So I've been as many times the Dalai Lama, as you can imagine. And then the Dalai Lama, he's been 11 times, but in reality, his incarnations were only 3. And there were other people who played the incarnations of Dalai Lama that weren't really the incarnations of the Dalai Lama. It's just another Rinpoche they believed to be the Dalai Lama, and it wasn't. So and that happened. So that's the story of that. But these 2 things are important. Those 2 people are gathering now in the next 2 years. Because I go back to Tibet and build a monastery and set up a monastery and set everything up NGO-wise, making it possible for these Tibetans to fly into America and meet with Native Americans and build clinics and start meditation and begin transmission from masters who meditate dramatically and are powerful psychically, can transmit into Native Americans who are equally the same. And within a short few years, the Native Americans begin having transfiguring, transcending, completely transforming lifestyles that are manifested by their own enlightenment, awakening of their own nature, strength that comes from connecting the East with the West. It's something that's prophesized to happen, and we are in the middle of it right now, and it's going to be incredible.